Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Occult Think Tank. My name is Greg. In today's program, I am going to be talking about the Antarean connection and crop circles. The Antarean connection. Time and UFOs. Time is one of the most important aspects of the UFO thing. It plays a strange but significant role. Part of the answer may not lie in the stars, but in the clock ticking in front of you. The planet Earth exists in 3 dimensions. We can move in many directions within these dimensions. Space does not exist except when we make it exist. To us, the distance between atoms in our matter is so minute that it can only be calculated with hypothetical measurements. Yet if we lived on an atom, and our size was relative to its, the distance to the next atom would seem awesome. There is another Earth's man-made measurement called time. Unlike the other 3 dimensions, time has us seemingly trapped. Time becomes very real to us, and it appears that we couldn't live without it. Yet time doesn't really exist at all. This moment exists to us. Does this mean that the same moment is being shared by other planets in other galaxies? Not really. The UFO phenomenon does seem to be controlled. This means it does follow intelligent patterns. If the objects themselves are manifestations of higher energies, then something has to manipulate those energies somehow and reduce them to visible frequencies for human patterns. But they take forms which seem physical and real to us, and they carry out actions which seem to be intelligent. Thus we arrive at the source. The source has to be a form of intelligent energy operating at the highest possible point of the frequency spectrum. If such an energy exists at all, it might permeate the universe and maintain equal control of each component part because of its very high frequency, so that the energy particles are virtually standing still. The source has no need to replenish itself in any way that would be acceptable to our environmental sciences. It could actually create and destroy matter by manipulating the lower energies. It would be timeless because it exists beyond all time fields. It would be infinite because it is not controlled by the 3-dimensional space. Perhaps, if we were in pure energy state, each particle of energy would itself serve as a synopsis and information, could be stored by a slight alteration in frequency. All the memory fragments of a rose, for example, would be recorded at one frequency, and the whole energy could tune into that memory by adjusting the frequency, as we might adjust a radio receiver. Well, where have we heard that before? In other words, no complex circuitry would be required, and no physical body would be necessary either. The energy patterns would not need material form. It instead would permeate the entire universe. Interesting small point of view from a gigantic concept of the reality of the multiverse. It could surround you completely at this very moment and be aware of all feeble impulses of lower energy passing through your brain. If it so desired, it would control those pulses and thus control your thoughts. Man has always been aware of this intelligent energy force. He has worshipped it as God, Jesus, or the universal being, etc. Number 1. Our first conclusion is that UFOs originate from beyond our own time frame or time cycle. Our second conclusion is that the source has total foreknowledge of human events and individual lives, since time and space are not absolutes. These two conclusions are compatible. It is that human events occur simultaneously when viewed by a greater intelligence. If a greater intelligence wants to communicate with a lower form, all kinds of problems are presented. The communication must be conducted in a manner which will be meaningful and understandable to the lower life form. An acceptable frame of reference must be found and utilized. The UFO phenomenon is frequently relative. That is, the observed manifestations seem to be deliberately tailored and adjusted to the individual's beliefs and attitude of the witnesses. Conductees are given information which in most cases conform to their beliefs. UFO researchers who concentrate on one particular aspect or theory find themselves inundated with seemingly reliable reports which tend to substantiate that theory. Soviet researchers' extensive experience with this relative factor led them to carry out weird experiments, which confirmed that a large part of the reported data is engineered and deliberately false. The witnesses are not the perpetrators, but merely the victims. The apparent purpose of all this false data is multifold. Much of this is meant to create confusion and diversion. Some of it has served to support certain beliefs which were erroneous, but which would serve as a stepping stone to the higher, more complex truth. Whole generations have come and gone happily believing in the false data, unaware that they were mere links in the chain. If it were all understood too soon, we might crumble under the weight of the truth. The planet Earth is covered with windows, corridors, tunnels, or gates unto those unseen worlds. We have the instruments to detect them, and if we decide to use them, we would find that these windows are the focal point for super high frequency waves. The rays of ancient lore. These rays might come from Orion or the Pleiades star system, as the Terran ancestors claimed, or they might be part of a great force that emanates through the universe, perhaps from the Antarean star system. The UFOs have given to the Terrans the evidence that such rays exist. Now, slowly, we are being told why. Observers from the Antares star system are watching the Terrans, and they know the guidelines for warp zones. Come from the center of the Antares star system and draw tunnels for several main points of this and other universes. They are gates for several travelers from all universes. Of course, there are many more focus points when other rays come from around the universe. Crop circles phenomena. You will be seeing a picture of this page and another page in front of you that I'll be covering in this section. Crop circles phenomena, circle affair. The better way to understand the so-called crop phenomena, circles that appear in fields, is by the following example. And you'll see the picture on the page. We, the people of the earth, exist in the third dimension because our atoms have a specific frequency, which makes us able to exist at the third dimension. This specific frequency is stable enough for all our lifetime. One quick idea of dimensions tells us, first, dimension is just a plain point. Second dimension is two points together connected by a line. Third dimension is density, volume, us, and our universe. Fourth dimension, time. Our main interest in this report is the fifth dimension, parallel universes or multiverse. That's the whole idea behind the multiverse concept. Not just one universe, but an infinite number of parallel universes. Using math to make a simplification of this concept tells us that there are no limits of the higher or lower number that exist. It's impossible to figure these numbers like it's impossible to figure the extension of possibilities of the multiverse. And there is another picture below that. If we were capable of accelerating or decelerating the frequency to us, able to exist in the third dimension, we can jump to the fifth dimension or the multiverse. To understand this idea better, try to think that all this is just like listening to a radio set. When you listen to a radio set, you are listening to a single radio station on a single frequency. By changing to a different radio station, you have to change to a different frequency. This is accomplished by the frequency tuning dial in the front of the radio set. But because you are listening to a single radio station on a single frequency, does not mean that the other stations on other frequencies do not exist, right? Same thing with the universe, other universes from the multiverse. They are at different frequencies than we are, and we just don't know it yet. Why are we in the third dimension and they are in the fifth dimension? Why not the reverse? Simple. It's based on perspective. They see us in their fifth dimension, and we see them as our fifth dimension. Again, it's just a question of perspective. The other dimensional travelers come to our dimension by using some process of acceleration of particles and give them the capability of jumping between dimensions. But why did they select England first? And why the fields? The answer is England had all of the right conditions for one of several civilizations that exist in the multiverse to be able to contact us through crop circles. All answers of how they were able to accomplish this task lie in the vast prehistoric energy circuit. England has a complex web of energy running in inner links with tumul, ancient graves and stones, circles, or hinges, and all of the sites, hinges, mounds, and stone circles, were constructed in relation to underground water links with energy lines. This creates some sort of natural electromagnetic force field created by the water, combined with the presence of underground quartz deposits. Also, the lunar gravitational effects on the water, land mass, and the buildup of electromagnetic charge from the quartz produce a periodic energy discharge. The energy bolts give the necessary conditions for these dimensional civilizations to be able to start experimenting with our universe and or planet. They have started to send probes here in order to know more about the natural conditions of our universe and planet. The probes are limited to one specific semidome of energy, a circle in a field where they have scanned the energy bolt, the other light frequency. You'll see a picture of the page that I'm looking at. In the sketch above, our eyes wouldn't be able to see the probe at that moment because of our visual limitation of not being able to see frequencies of infrared and ultraviolet. Of course, if you were able to detect the device using infrared or ultraviolet equipment, then you would be able to see it. The crop circle phenomena didn't start now or even a few decades ago. It started centuries ago and just got more and more complex. Normally, you detect the proximity of circles by ionization of the air near you, i.e. changes of the temperature and or characteristic sound produced by the acceleration of particles. Then, when they are semi-stable at our reality. They are now experimenting all over the planet, always looking for similar conditions to England to send messages. Very particular messages, using domes, which are fluxes of particles from their particle accelerator device. And you will see a picture of whatever it is below that. Very soon they will be able to make a total materialization and real existence in our reality. All in all, I find all of this very intriguing. But I know some of the crop circles that we have seen have been faked by people. But the idea that they are made by devices that we can't see with our visual limitations is an interesting idea. I would be curious if it could be tested that looking at it with infrared or ultraviolet cameras would be able to reveal the device that is making the crop circle. I would be very curious to see if that could be proven. But I also see, I did a bit of research on the Antarean star system, and I did find that there are some videos of are you a starseed from the Antares type of thing, and it's an idea that may be appealing to some, but I get very skeptical when it says about people deciding if they are, because I see that as somebody could try to latch onto an idea because it sounds appealing, but not actually be a starseed or whatnot from another star system. I would be very interested in interviewing somebody that would say that they're an alien, but it would be more than just making the claim. I would want some kind of evidence. And regardless, I would always advise you, my listeners, to be taking things with a major pinch of salt. That being skeptical of a claim, I feel, is a very good thing, because otherwise you're really going to be gullible to any well-crafted bit of bullshit. Because there are those that are con artists that would definitely be very good at crafting the bullshit. But the fact that what they're saying is bullshit would be proven by nothing materializing from what they claim. Anybody can claim anything. It is being able to actually prove what you're claiming that really matters. This is why I advocate for everybody, even with the videos that I do and so forth, be skeptical. Being skeptical is not bad. It protects you from being sucked into bullshit. But I also do see the correlations with these two sections, the Antares connection and the crop circles thing, where the religious could try to pitch the idea of things being quote-unquote demonic. But from what I covered today and read over, it would indicate to my brain that if there is a source behind the universe or the multiverse, that the idea of angels, demons, so forth, would really be an inaccurate way of looking at it. That I would be thinking, if we're talking frequencies, this does get into something that I had touched on before with the aspect of basically being around somebody that is negative will draw you down or pull you down. That it also goes along the lines of a phrase that I've heard of, you're bringing me down, or don't put someone down. It is, I suspect, an aspect of vibrational frequency, that somebody that is negative would be operating at a lower vibrational frequency than somebody that is positive. And if that is the case, what is termed angelic and demonic are just different frequencies. And that, yes, they would be incompatible much the same way different radio stations are incompatible with each other because they're operating on different frequencies. That if you would want to, like, listen to a demonic radio station, you would have to be tuned in to that radio station. But you wouldn't be able to hear the angelic because it would be on a different radio station. That's what I'm thinking this would be akin to. And if we can decide what, to use the term frequency, we want to be part of or whatnot, then it would seem that you could experience both sides, all of the range of frequencies. And that could be part of, basically, they say, what's the purpose of life or the meaning of life? Maybe it's an aspect of just experiencing all of the frequencies of existence. And that what we perceive as negative, evil, whatnot, is just a different frequency. That it may be something that you're interested in for a period of time and then reach a point of, all right, I've done that. I'm kind of bored with this. I want to explore another frequency. If that would be the case, I would have no problem with the idea of there being something beyond physical life, because it would mean that it's really not about a god or a source, but rather one's own exploration of what is. But I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are on this. Feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Oh, just to give you a bit of a heads up on tomorrow's program, tomorrow I'll be going into the Dulce base. I also want to point out that maybe if there is an afterlife type of thing, or maybe the idea of reincarnation, what if we could have a lifetime or multiple as human, and then other lifetimes and so forth as a different alien race? I don't know. Just something to consider and think about, and let me know what your thoughts are on it. Feel free to leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Talk to you later, people.